Never ever do this with your fairway woods. So many golfers think they should sweep their fairway woods. It is totally the wrong concept. I hear it said so many times if I walk past people on the driving range, on the golf course, you need to sweep that a bit more, you need to just pick that off the fairway a bit more. It's totally wrong. Sometimes they also talk about taking the club low in the backswing. These are wrong. Let's get stuck into what you should do to become majorly successful with a fairway wood to lower your scores. So I hope you all saw that purposeful top I did there, trying to sweep the fairway wood to make a point that that's not what I want you to do. So we get so many people that try and lift the ball in the air that they become unsuccessfully. What happens when they try and lift the ball in the air? They tend to lean back, so their dynamic balance moves back here, the torso moves back behind the ball, and the low point gets so far behind the ball that they can't make solid contact. Today, what I really want you to do is really focus on getting the right kind of contact with your fairway woods to become more successful and lower your scores. And there's a few tips and tricks that are going to allow you to be successful to make sure you follow these points carefully. Let's lay them out for you. So the first thing that is important is we don't get too wide with our stance. When we get wide, it lowers our center of gravity and it makes it harder for us to move our pressure into the front section of our stance as we hit the golf ball. We really want to make sure we get that weight through the golf ball, that pressure through the golf ball to be successful with a fairway wood. So that's really tip number one, if you like. Let's make sure the stance doesn't get too wide. What we're looking for with a stance width is shoulder width. So if I put my arms down to the side, and obviously I'm quite wide, we want those fingers to point in the middle of our feet, no wider than that. With a driver we go wider. With a short iron we could go point these down just to the outsides of our feet. So we can vary that stance width ever so slightly. So I'd say 9-iron and wedge goes slightly narrower, driver goes slightly wider. Every other club play with what we would call a shoulder width stance to the middle of our feet. So let's make sure we do that initially. That would be point number one. So let's just whack one away, keeping that stance nice and solid at shoulder width apart. And a nice solid hit there. Certainly better than the first one. Point number two is all about that pressure. We talked earlier about we want to shift that pressure. But let's make sure we don't put too much pressure on the trail foot as we address the ball. Again, with the effort to try and sweep the fairway woods, a lot of golfers put the weight and get the sternum behind the golf ball. We do not want to do that. The sternum will be ever so slightly towards the back edge of the golf ball for sure. And the ball position is going to be in the forward section of the stance. But weight-wise, let's keep it 50-50. If you naturally shift too much weight, you could even go slightly 55 on the lead foot as a cheat. But really what I would say to you, let's start with 50-50. So make sure we can bounce back and forth with our feet, and we can get the feeling of the feet and the pressure is even with the ball in the front section of the stance. And then from that position now, with the stance width, as we said, shoulder width, the pressure even, go ahead and hit the fairway wood. And just nicely hit that one. Squeezed it off the surface, with no divot, but squeezed it off the surface for sure. When we hit fairway woods, the best players in the world hit down the ball. So hit descend 3 degrees. So we want to encourage you for sure to be hitting down on the ball with every club in the bag apart from the driver and the putter. Possibly a high lob shot from a good lie. We might also be even or slightly on the ascend, but every other shot we hit in golf, we are going to be hitting down. So the sweeping analogy for me is totally wrong. The next point is really about that sweeping backswing look. So again, we hear lots of golfers talk about take the club back low and wide. Well, why would you want to do that? We want obviously the wrists to work. We want to hinge these wrists. We want to cock these wrists, whatever wording you like, in order to create that loading and unloading and storing and being able to hit down on the golf ball. So we do want that still with a fairway wood. It will be widened naturally than an iron swing because it's a longer shaft, but don't encourage it to be so. Just do your natural swing. So just make sure when we're swinging back, we are looking for the same takeaway as we would do in an iron shot. So let the club load up and squeeze it out there. That one, a bit of divot, again, because I'm really getting more warmed up and I'm trying to hit down on the ball. I definitely don't want to sweep the ball. Let's keep saying that statement. We want to hit down on the ball. We want to squeeze the ball out there like we would do an iron shot. Okay, the last kind of coaching point, and then possibly we'll end with a concept for the golf course. The last coaching point is all about how much we move the torso around and the head around in the swing to help get this centered contact, centered and controlled low point to the golf swing. Again, the low point wants to be just after the ball. Can't emphasize that enough. So again, if we take our setup to the ball, take an alignment rod and stick it on the ground about a club head inside the trail foot, and take another alignment rod and stick it about a club head outside the lead foot. And again, try and get these as parallel as you can to the direction you're going in. So this one could probably go that way a little bit more. Now the idea here would be that we're trying to feel in the backswing that our zip, our top, our buttons will get to this rod here. So we're moving into the trail side for sure. We will move our pressure 80% to the trail side during the widest part of the golf swing. And then at the top of the golf swing, it'll come back to about 60%, the pressure on the trail side. Then in the finish, we want to feel that we get our pressure, you know, in the finish, probably about 90%, but certainly around impact about 80%. And this rod here really is just to feel that we try and get our lead hip, our pocket, make sure we get it over to that rod. And again, it's a visual. There's nothing there that's going to hit you or tell you if you've done it or not. Purely a visual little matrix or grid on the floor, just to get you feeling, okay, in my backswing, my sternum can go this way, the head can move a touch. Let's say 2 inches, but no more than that. I prefer probably slightly more centered head. I'm not capable of doing that all the time because of my back flexibility, but a fairly centered head is good. Certainly feeling our eyes don't move off the ball too much. And then the fuse swing, trying to get our lower half, our lead half, our tailbone nearer this lead side to ensure we get that low point in the correct spot. That is definitely what we're looking for. Let's give one a crack with that template on the ground. And for sure the best one I've hit, yes, I've warmed up a bit, but really focusing on those 2 little things there was a great way for me to have great contact. Now let's go through what we can do on the golf course to help. So in my videos, I always want to make sure you know how to take things to the golf course. It's great to have things to do on the range, but if you're great in the range and poor on the golf course, that doesn't help your scoring. So on the golf course, let's have some simple concepts we can do. So from a practice swing perspective, I'd want to feel that we would stay fairly centered. If anything, narrow stance. Try and make sure we make contact with that ground. It doesn't have to be a full power, full swing. Just measure the ground, feel the ground, make sure you can hit that ground consistently. Line up your shot as you would do normally, ideally picking a spot 3 inches in front of the ball. Get the leading edge in there at that spot. Your stance, your ball position, get comfortable. A few waggles to release the tension in the arms. I like firm hands, loose wrists, sorry. And then conceptually when we're going to hit it, let's try and stare at the front of the ball. That'll help us hit down and through the ball. Hold the finish till the ball lands if you can, or near enough. And then switch off. Forget about the shot. That's very important also. So I hope you've enjoyed that video looking at the fairway woods and what you should never do with a fairway wood. You know, obviously we want to make sure we're committed, we hit down, we trust, we have good swing mechanics. Today's really looking at the things that we can do to ensure you have the best possible chance of making good contact with a fairway wood. Whether that be a 3-wood like I was hitting today, 5-wood or a 7-wood. The ball position will vary slightly with those clubs, slightly further back, the higher the number of wood. But basically the conceptual stuff and the weight shift and the pressure would remain the same for each of those clubs. If you've enjoyed the video, please click like and also follow or subscribe me if you can, please. Hit my logo down below and join me on my journey and let me help you improve your golf. Lastly, thank you for joining me today at the Forest of Arden. I hope to see you back here real soon.